So I'm here with you tonight to share a very interesting idea that was born in Shanghai a few years ago, in 2012. But first of all, let me explain to you the context in which this idea was born. So let's start by a simple question. With your obsolete computer, your TV, after you discard, well, there is a high risk that this is collected by illegal vendors. You can even sell it to them, and those vendors will send your electronic waste to some workshops, mostly based in the south of China. Those workshops, the people who are working are just villagers. They have no skills in e-waste dismantling. And of course, they have no idea that dismantling e-waste can be harmful to their health. Because in e-waste, there are a lot of toxic substances. There are heavy metals, lead, plutonium, cadmium, PCBs, etc. So, and the worst part is that after they dismantle those electronic devices, then they will either burn, landfill, or throw in the river the unwanted part of those devices. And this, of course, creates very high environmental pollution in the area around those workshops. Pollution of the water, of course, but also pollution of the land where the food is growing. Maybe you heard about rice contaminated with cadmium a few years ago. Well, it's estimated that around 72% of the e-waste are handled in that way in China today. But it's actually not the worst. In the US, by example, it's 95% of the e-waste that are not handled in a proper way. In Australia, it's even 99% that is not handled in a proper way. In those countries, e-waste are collected and then shipped to other countries, poorer countries, such as Nigeria in Africa, or India, or China, to be dismantled, without any tracking about how it is dismantled, actually. But, well, let's go back to China. So, according to United Nations University in 2014, there were 6 million ton e-waste produced. And within those 6 million ton e-waste, there were about 5 million computers. For most of them, those computers are still usable after a little fixing, little repair. And then, at the meantime, there are 50 million students that have no computer in their schools. So those children are mostly in the rural area or are in the migrant schools that are not supported by the government. So, well, you can see here there is obviously something to do to match the offer and the demand. And this was the idea of the Green IT Classroom. The idea is very simple. Recycle the old computer to turn them into education tools for underprivileged children. So how does it work exactly? So for computers and individuals, instead of just throwing away your computer, then you can have them refurbished and lent to a school that really needs it for 3 years. Why 3 years? Because it's the average lifetime of refurbished computers. Then after those 3 years, of course, we will make sure that those computers are collected again and then dismantled in a proper factory that is accredited by the government. So this nice program could just have been a charity program, but it's not. It's actually a social enterprise. It's called Netspring Social Enterprise. Why is it a social enterprise? Because the founders didn't want to rely on donations, money donations, and didn't want to rely on volunteers. They wanted this program to run on the long term. They wanted it to be sustainable. So this is a real enterprise with a real business plan, and this is actually a service company. It offers service to other companies, and it creates value for them. So which kind of value does it create? Well, first of all, it creates value in terms of environmental image for the companies, because their computers are going to be used longer and they are going to be dismantled in a proper way at the end of the program. It's also a good value in terms of social image for the company, because it does good for the community around. It also creates a value, social value internally for the company, because the volunteers that will participate to this kind of program will be prouder about their company and will be more willing to stay in those companies, will be more loyal to the company. And the last part, and I think is the most important actually, is the educational value that we create with this program. So it's a little bit more long-term vision, but it's estimated that by 2020 there will be a shortage of about 40 million highly qualified workers in the world. And by giving the chance to more kids to have access to computer, to technology, and making them aware about what's happening in the world, well, hopefully we will be able to fill in the gap of those 40 million workers missing. Thank you.